Coming to you from beautiful downtown Santa Rosa, this is the Backstage Sonoma podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Hello and welcome to the Backstage Sonoma podcast. I'm Steve Roby. Today we're excited to have a special guest, musician Jeffrey Martin. Known for his profoundly meaningful storytelling and emotive folk sound, Jeffrey has built a reputation as a songwriter who paints vivid portraits of life's struggles and beauty. Starting his journey as an English teacher turned full-time musician, Jeffrey has released several albums, including his latest, Thank God We Left the Garden, recorded in a hand-built shack that embodies the spirit of his music, raw, honest, and close to nature. In today's episode, we'll explore the powerful narratives behind songs like Red Station Wagon and Garden, discuss Jeffrey's unique creative process, and get insights into his ongoing tour and what's in store for his upcoming show at the Sweetwater Music Hall. But first, let's begin with one of Jeffrey's compelling tracks. Here's Lost Dog on Backstage Sonoma.
Last night I was a lost dog, running wild on the road, looking back over my shoulder for the headlights glow. And blood in my mouth, what I killed I don't know. There was an engine in my chest, beating feet upon the I outran the darkness and the light just the same. And I cried for the edges when I forgot my own name. You see me now, Daddy, I'm a vapor of a ghost, out spinning in the blackness where the time it doesn't go. The end is the beginning of a story I don't know, out spinning in the blackness where the time doesn't go. I met an angel, a boring man by a tree. His fire had been stolen by an eternity. I'll be dead in a moment, just a breath and I'll be gone. Love is everything, can't be held for too long. I'll be dead in a moment, just a breath and I'll be gone. Love is everything, can't be held for too long. I'll be dead in a moment, yeah, just a breath and I'll be gone. Love is everything, can't be held for too long.
That was Jeffrey Martin with the song Lost Dog. It's available on his latest album, Thank God We Left the Garden. Singer-songwriter Jeffrey Martin is my guest today and is joining me now. Hey, Jeffrey, it's nice to meet you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great.
So we'll discuss your current album in just a bit, but first, can you tell our listeners, especially those new to your music, about your journey into music and what inspired you to become a singer-songwriter?
Oh, I never know the answer to that question. It was a slow build for me. I was doing a lot of different things and kind of writing music for a long time through my teens and early 20s, and then kind of through some nudging of some good friends was kind of pushed into some open mics and finally sharing songs with some people other than my dog, and then just kind of slowly crept out into the world with it.
Mm-hmm.
Liked having that outlet.
What was your background? Did your parents play a lot of music at home? When did you decide to really get serious about it?
My mom is a great piano player. She played a lot of piano at home growing up, and she encouraged my brother and sister and I to all explore some aspect of music. And then I grew up going to church also when I was younger, and there's a lot of music in the church too. So
Yeah.
it was always there, but I wasn't aware of it till I got older, that I was kind of always steeped in it.
Yeah. Can you recall the moment that allowed you to become a full-time singer and songwriter? Is there an exact moment you decided, well, this is it, I'm going to make a career out of this?
Yeah, there was a very exact moment.
All right.
I was playing a lot of music, but it hadn't really clicked yet that it could be a thing, like a full-time thing. And at the time I was teaching high school English. And then toward the end of the last school I taught at, I remember I was teaching seniors who were getting ready to graduate, and I was having them do these projects where they had to explore what they really wanted to do, not what was conventional or what made sense, but just like what they were really passionate about potentially for after high school. And I just found myself encouraging all these young people. And then in the back of my mind, I was feeling this itch to go on tour full time. And so I kind of hit a breaking point, and I walked into the principal's office one day and told him I wouldn't be coming back next year. And that was that.
That was the pivotal moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. So I want to get back into some more music from your new album and play the track called Red Station Wagon. Can you share the story behind this song, and what do you hope listeners to take away from it?
I mean, it's a story. It's an invented story. That's kind of an amalgamation of conversations I've had with friends over the years who kind of don't fit in various ways into the mainstream channels, and whether they're gay or trans or whatever. And so it's kind of an imagined story I wanted to tell the story of somebody who acted really carelessly when they were younger towards somebody that kind of revealed something to them about them being gay. But I wanted to tell that story like in a positive light, in the sense that that person then got older and realized like just how hurtful they might have been when they were younger and too dumb to know any better. And
Sure.
I felt like that was a pretty common story, especially in our culture and especially among men. But it's been pretty wild since that song has come out to the world. It's a much more prevalent story than I realized. And it's kind of a song about somebody kind of atoning more or less for the way they were when they were younger, and confessing to this person now that they love them and don't hold anything against them at all.
What's the audience's reaction like when you play this live?
I mean, it's a heavy song.
Yeah.
It's good to take a breath after that tune at a show, but it's always really positive. And the song, as heavy as it is, it ends on a really high note. Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, let's check it out right now. This is Jeffrey Martin with Red Station Wagon here on Backstage Sonoma.
I can still see that red station wagon on the street by your house. We'd walk to rent movies and wander our way across town. Out away from your dad, you were always so easily found. You let your hands dance and you let yourself laugh out loud. Hey, I remember. That night on the roof of the school, when we were talking at stars, and you said that you might be afraid of who you really are, and your hand touched my hand and retreated in that desperate dark. And I called you a faggot and laughed and punched you in the arm. I don't believe it, I can't believe it now. I can't believe how I let you down. church was a boot on your neck since the day you were born. They didn't like the way that you talk or how you move in the world. How you glide like a leaf on the water, all gentle and kind. All the world wants a man who is hard, not hard to define. And you feel like a child that the God of all forgot to name. Like he gave you a heart, but he did not give you a place. Did he breathe into you just to tell you that you are to blame? Did he breathe into you just to tell you that you are to blame? I don't believe it. I don't believe it now. I don't believe how I let you down. Did he breathe into you just to tell you that you are to blame? Did he breathe into you just to tell you that you are to blame? I don't believe it. I don't believe it now. I don't believe it. I don't believe it now. I don't believe it. I don't believe it now.
That's Jeffrey Martin with Red Station Wagon. It's from his album, Thank God We Left the Garden. Jeffrey is my guest today here on Backstage Sonoma. Jeffrey, your latest album, Thank God We Left the Garden, has a unique, intimate feel to it, and you recorded it in a small shack you built. Can you talk about why you chose this setting and how it influenced the sound of the record?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of chose me. I built this shack a couple of years ago just to have a space at home where there was all my own and where there was no chance of other distractions. It's just a music space. And I was recording demos for this record, thinking I would just make some good demos at home to bring into a studio wherever that record happened. And then just in the process of recording those demos with these two cheap mics, something about that space and the way it sounded, it just kind of like, there was a little bit of magic there. And then I sent a demo or two off to my manager and my label and asked them if I was crazy. And they said, no, there is something that fits these songs. Like, I don't think it's a place where I should record all my records, but for this album, because it was so intimate and I wanted to keep it pretty sparse, it just fit really well. And so I just ran with it when I got the thumbs up from those guys, and yeah, worked.
Can you describe the shack?
It's a little almost 8 by 10 little just plywood walls shack that I threw up, and it's nothing fancy at all. There's no sound treatment or anything.
Oh, okay. So you get a little bit of room reflection and
yeah.
And what kind of mics are you using? Just curious.
Man, I went through so many mics because I was convinced I couldn't use the cheap mics that I had. So I spent thousands of dollars and then returned all those mics because I didn't like anything and just ended up using these Audio-Technica 4040s, these old staples, just large diaphragm mics, just two of them stacked on top of each other, and that's it. Yeah.
That was the result. You mentioned that this album was like chasing a magic quality that you'd been looking for. What was different about this project compared to your previous works like One Go Around?
I think the trap that I fell into with earlier records, and I didn't know it, it's just part of the learning process, but it's like there was so much pressure going into a studio space and, thinking about the time and the money investment and not wanting to let down whoever you're working with. And then also trying to hold this concept in your mind of what you want the album to feel like. And sometimes that's a good thing. But for this record, I just tried not to think about what I wanted the album to feel like, and instead just like try and get the most honest performance of each song and see if the songs could stand on their own in a really stripped down way. And so I just felt the freedom to don't know. I just feel like this record is the most honest record I've ever made, both in terms of the writing and in the performance of the songs. And I attribute all that to having the space and time to sit. I mean, I recorded over the period of maybe 3 months, 2 months in the shack in the winter.
In the winter, huh?
Yeah. And that's not time I would have had if I was in a studio, I would have been burning through money. But
oh, yeah. How was it working with John Neufeld, who contributed electric guitar to several tracks and mixed and mastered the album? What did he bring to the project that made it special?
John is a very special listener. He's worked really hard to develop that skill. And when he has ideas and things he wants to try, he's not afraid to toss those out as well. But he's just such a great listener. And so I feel like in the conversations I had with him about mixing and mastering and then the electric guitar stuff that he added to the album, it was just, I just felt really listened to by him. And then what he would bring back to me, it was so obvious that he had tried really hard to kind of stick to those notes that he made when we were talking. And it was really special. Yeah, he's got an amazing ear, just an overall sensibility for music.
The album has been described as a celebration of questions and the messiness of life. Can you share how that theme ties into your songwriting process, and what does that mean to you?
I play a lot of my older songs still from previous records, and I like them, but I hear this like certainty in some of the stories I told and some of the characters I sung about and the concepts, kind of this, like maybe it became too certain or too defined in some of those songs. And on this newest record, kind of really intentionally, I tried not to do that. I tried to leave room. If an idea or a feeling I was chasing kind of needed to remain mysterious, then I kind of let it be that way. And it was an interesting learning exercise. There were times when I felt like what I was writing maybe was too vague or too, like it would be received too broadly or something. And it's not been the case at all. It's kind of been one of those things where people are able to access it even more so because they can come to it from whatever angle, from their own life. Yeah, it was a good learning experience.
Hey, if you're just joining us, this is Backstage Sonoma. We're talking with musician Jeffrey Martin, and his latest album is called Thank God We Left the Garden. I want to play Garden next, Jeffrey. The lyrics are deeply introspective, touching on ideas of human nature and spirituality.
Yeah.
What was your thought process while writing this, and how does it reflect on your beliefs or experiences?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I grew up in the church, but I haven't been religious in my adult life. But a lot of those questions and a lot of those ideas that came from church and the spirituality there, they still rattle around in my head. And I just wanted to write a song that was kind of showcasing that in my life, at least, like there are questions that I will ask forever. And I think that's one of those areas where the questions are enough. I think there's a lot of people like that out there, especially people who maybe have a complicated history with religion and have moved away from it in their adulthood, but they still wrestle with some of these ideas.
Yeah, it's definitely a common issue, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen to Garden. It's Jeffrey Martin here on Backstage Sonoma.
Nobody knows me where I go when I'm angry. How often I'm lonely, I guess they're the same thing. Nobody knows me. In my mind there's a garden full of beauty and darkness, full of sorrow and sweet things where my heart can be honest. In my mind there's a garden. In that garden there's a fruit tree. I eat from it daily. The same that Adam and Eve ate. What does that make me? In my garden there's a fruit tree, I wanna know the secrets. I wanna peek behind the curtain. I wanna find out for certain if I'm here on purpose. I wanna know the secrets. As if knowing would save me from the things that have made me. As if the mess that I'm making isn't really a blessing. As if knowing would save me. In my mind there's a garden full of beauty and darkness, full of sorrow and sweet things where my heart can be honest. In my mind there's a garden. In my mind there's a garden. In my mind there's a garden.
That's Jeffrey Martin with a performance of Garden from Thank God We Left the Garden, which is available now. Jeffrey is my guest today. Jeffrey, you're currently on tour supporting Thank God We Left the Garden. What has the reception been like so far, and how does it feel to perform these new songs live?
It feels really great. It's pushed me into like a realm of vulnerability that was pretty scary at first, but I really like it now. It really opens the door to some pretty interesting conversations with folks after a show. And I think, I hope at least that people feel that energy at the show too, that I'm kind of, to some extent, putting something on the line with these songs. Like they might be discussing big ideas and ideas of mystery and whatever, but there is a lot of me in them. There's not a lot of places to hide in some of the songs. And I think people appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the common questions that people ask after a show?
Well, I mean, the title of the record, Thank God We Left the Garden, is
that was going to be my next question.
It's interesting because I didn't know how it would be received, but what's interesting is that it's received very differently in different places. You know, if I'm playing in a more rural pocket in the U.S. that might be more religious or whatever, people come to that show with ideas from that place and that culture, and it's very different than if I play in like Brooklyn or something. But the title is mysterious enough as it is that it allows for a whole host of conversations. I wrestled with that title for a minute. I didn't want to put anybody off with the title. I was kind of worried how it'd be received by some people who maybe were still religious. And I don't mean anything bad by it at all. It just felt like such a great way for me to convey this idea that I feel a lot of gratitude right now in my life for just the messiness of it. And there was a time in my life where I felt burdened by that. And now I feel like the hardship and the moments of life that make no sense to us are the times where we really figure things out and things get defined in us. And I'm just grateful for it.
Yeah. To me, it's kind of a probably intentionally conflicting title, Thank God We Left the Garden, where supposedly you started nature and human beings.
Yeah. I've had people ask me, like, do you mean that, do you mean that you think God intended for us to leave the garden? And that's an interesting conversation to have with people after a show. It's like, well, if that's the God that you believe in, then that God made the garden and he made everything that came after that. And that's a big idea. Yeah. But I try to just listen to folks and
I'm sure that's interesting for you.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Jeffrey, you're playing Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley very soon. What can fans expect from your upcoming show? And do you have any surprises planned or anything special for the set list?
Yeah, I'm working on a few tunes right now on tour. I have some hopes to make another record maybe this winter or early spring. And so I'm kind of trying to crawl into that world, and I'll definitely be playing some unreleased songs in Mill Valley and seeing how those feel.
And just a reminder to our listeners, Jeffrey Martin will perform at the Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley on Sunday, November 24th. Doors open at 7 p.m. and showtime is 8 p.m. You can pick up tickets right now at sweetwatermusichall.com. Anything else on your mind before I let you go, Jeffrey?
No, it's great. I'm really looking forward to that show. I've heard great things about that Sweetwater spot.
Well,
it'll be a good one.
I always tell my guests that are playing the Sweetwater Music Hall that they treat musicians excellent backstage in the green room, and be sure to ask for the tacos if you like tacos.
Okay, I will. That's a good tip. Thank you. Yeah.
They do something special with their tacos. The topping on it is just unique. So that's my little tip for you.
Amazing.
Okay, Jeffrey, thanks so much for sharing your insight on your music, and good luck with your tour, and have a great show in Mill Valley.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
We're back in a moment with more Backstage Sonoma.
Hey musicians, would you like to be a guest and promote your upcoming concert and latest release? It's easy. Just email the host at backstagesonoma@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Thanks for listening to the Backstage Sonoma podcast. Join us next time for more great interviews and music from local and touring musicians. You can find us on the web at backstagesonoma.com.